Okay, so we know the Stephon Clark case, correct? This happened now over a month ago where Stephon Clark was shot and killed outside of his grandmother's home in the backyard. The police, SAC PD, thought he had a cell phone. That's why they shot him. Turns out he did, they thought he had a gun.
But he had a cell phone.
Turns out he did not. It was only a cell phone. So protests have continued to happen. As Black Lives Matter and other organizations in town, they said this was going to happen. We will be outside of the DA's office until they decide to prosecute fresh charges against those officers who shot and killed them. So those protests have still been happening. So we know that last Thursday outside of the DA's office, when those protests were happening, we know that 2 people were arrested. And so we didn't have details last week as to who these people were. Well, it turns out that one of the people arrested was a transgender female, and her name is Ebony Harper. And she got arrested because she was failing to disperse, and there was just failing to disperse for the most part. So they had put her in jail, okay? So she gets locked up, and during this time, she says that she was disrespected as a trans female. She was disrespected. So basically, they booked her on her birth name and not her transitional name. And so that was a disrespect to her and to the LGBTQM community. The way in which she was patted down, she has female parts now, meaning that she transitioned from male to a female, and that a male officer is the one that had patted her down, so she was very uncomfortable. They did say that her safety was not jeopardized in all of this, but it just brings up the bigger conversation of the LGBTQM community, especially when incarcerated. What are their rights? What is the conversation, and how we need to progress as a culture in respecting the trans community. And so, and I said this yesterday when we were talking about that one couple in Utah who has a gender neutral child. They're raising their child to be gender neutral. You weren't here yesterday, Tracy. Gender neutral, meaning they use the pronouns they, them, their, not his, her, she, he, because they want the child to be able to make that identification of themselves when they reach a certain age, which they said would happen around 3 or 4. But until then, they're giving them the clearance, this child the clearance to be and express how they want, and not be like, you're a boy, therefore you're going to play with Legos and Batman. And so it's just more conversations are popping up around this. And so now Ebony Harper, the woman who was arrested, is coming out and saying something needs to happen because I experienced something I never thought I'd experience. And I was treated like I was some weirdo when I was locked up. So just getting your reaction to this.
Well, you know, just yesterday, okay, I'm aware of many of the issues that the community is going through. I try and keep myself informed and respectful through all the stages. And just yesterday, literally, I heard about the Z
pronoun.
Yeah, exactly.
They,
so
them, their,
exactly.
Z.
And you know what? This isn't for me to decide. It's about letting people identify in their way and then treating them with respect. You know, it's like if I mean, you just I think this is I hate to say this because this obviously has been going on for a long time, but I would say the putting it into policy is something new, and as a society we're still struggling with a lot of these things because there's new information, there's new things that we learn, there's new way of looking at things all the time. So I feel like, you know, with something as institutionalized as a police department where they have to have policies hammered out well in advance and gone through over the years, I feel like when something new, or at least new to them, they struggle as well, even though they may not intentionally be disrespecting. Maybe the policy itself or what's available is disrespectful. So she highlights, hey, this is a problem
in California,
and then now it's up to everybody else to respond.
And to start that
and it's not just the police department; it's the TSA, it's bathroom issues.
This is a real thing. People are transgender. It's not like, oh my gosh, they're so weird. It's not my problem. I don't identify with it. Therefore, I'm not going to respect what it is that they want.
Things that are genderized.
Yes.
Okay. Bathrooms, for example, where you get incarcerated, things like that are going to have to be looked at because we, as a society, are seeing things in a new way, and you may not agree with it. But it's all about respect.
Respect it. So I was looking at this article. So after we were learning about this happened to a local woman, transgender woman. It looks like that in New York City, the headline is NYC jails to accommodate transgender inmates. This article came out 2 days ago. And it said inmates in New York City's jail system will be housed with fellow inmates of the gender they identify with. This is what officials had said Monday. So the announcement was by the Democratic Mayor Bill de Blasio, goes on to say, respecting someone's gender identity or gender expression is key in making sure that everyone in New York City is living with dignity and respect. The Commissioner of Human Rights says the fact that somebody's incarcerated or not doesn't really change that. So the idea that just because someone's incarcerated doesn't make them a bad person or someone that gets stripped of all of their rights. So if someone is transgender and they get incarcerated, doesn't mean that, oh, we can treat them however we want. Their rights go out the window. That is not the case. Just like you still get respected as a human being, and in this case, Ebony Harper was disrespected. So I applaud her. I applaud her for coming to the forefront and bringing this issue up because it is an issue in this community. How, though, are we going to move forward?
So my question is, does she believe that she was treated that way because she was a part of the Stephon Clark protest?
Well, she was taken in because she had, supposedly, according to officers, she failed to disperse, and so they had arrested 2 people.
I didn't know if she thought maybe they already had some type of feeling towards her because she was a part of that protest, that maybe they rough-handled her because of
Well, she was a transgender black woman, yes, but I wasn't getting any race issues in this conversation that she had with our Francis Wayne yesterday, but it was more of identity issues, where disrespect issues in the transgender
being sensitive
community.
to other people.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole new ball game. I still have a lot to learn.
We have a lot to learn, and the thing is like it's not new to the community. This has been an issue for decades upon decades, the disrespect, but it's the issue now that we face as everyday people to not even, I mean, we sit here and I called a couple of friends to say, can you speak on this from an expert level? Because although I'm an ally of the community, I'm still learning. I had my friend who came out as transgender to me this week, and it was still I'm Googling, like, what do I ask? What's your sexual orientation over what's your gender over what will her name be when you become a female? I mean, there's a lot to learn, but it's not always up to the LGBT community to have to educate. It's up to us to be interested enough and respectful enough of their culture to do our research, to learn it, and then to properly act on that. So that's the takeaway today. You get educated, not just because it's not your story or your issue. You never know the day when you're going to get the text message of someone you love who says, I'm transgender, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, bisexual, and then how do you as a human being react to that? And hopefully it's in a positive, uplifting way. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Extra Shot. The news is coming up at 9. I'm anchoring today. I'll be here with Tracy. I'm also anchoring the 11 o'clock news, so I'll be talking much more. Well, Rob, are you taking a break?
I'm going to hit the vending machine hard right now.
All right, everyone. Go ahead, a vending machine near you. And happy hanging out day. Yeah, chicken burrito. You're sick.
I gave it away yesterday.
You did.